Such a moment. The thing that blows my mind more than that is the tattoos. I freaking love that. I don't know if it's my deep well of vanity, but seeing my face on somebody else's body just really chuffed, y'all.
I'm immortalized now for life on you.
Show me my face.
What about you guys? I mean, you've been coming to cons for a bit by now, so it's never old hat. The energy of a Comic-Con is wholly unique, Carla.
It really is. It is it's so extraordinary to see all of you come out. I've lived my life, so much of it on the screen since I was such a little kid, and so I feel like we have all lived it together, and that is a very, very special thing. I think the first costume was maybe Sally Jupiter in Watchmen that I started seeing, which is a great costume.
That was me.
It looked amazing.
Awkward, but cool. Is there a name for the Flanagan gang? Is there an official...
Do it.
What do you got?
Someone started calling it the Flana-verse, and our reaction to that wasn't awesome.
I didn't say that now.
And I can say that now. So what started happening was internally we started to refer to everybody as the Flavengers. And when we have a new project, it's Flavengers Plassemble.
Are there different text threads for the different projects? Are there different WhatsApp groups, or there's one massive one for all of them?
Okay, I can't talk about this because Rahul is excluded from so many of them.
I had a feeling I wasn't in all of them.
You were, and it's so funny because
I ruined every group thread.
it's just that you will drop a bomb of a joke that'll just silence everyone as they slowly back away from their phone, imagining it being read out loud in a deposition.
We need an encrypted kind of text thread that Rahul can feel safe in.
Right.
WhatsApp. Yeah. WhatsApp.
He's just too edgy for this world. So talk to me a little bit about, I mentioned this from the start, like this is a unique thing. There aren't many filmmakers that I can think of that do kind of have a rep company of a sort. I mean, it's like you and Wes Anderson, basically, out there. How did this happen in kind of a haphazard way, or was it just sort of like, you collected folks you liked, and yeah, I'm gonna use them in a new purpose for my next project. Like, how did it happen?
Yeah, it was not intentional. But as I was very nervous when I finally got to make movies. I didn't know what I was doing. I think most of us who make movies don't know what we're doing, and we live in constant fear that people are going to figure that out. And when you have people that you trust, and that you can cut through a lot of because making movies and TV is so difficult. Your time is so crazily spread out. If you can communicate well with people, it just makes the process so much better. You have this baseline of trust. It becomes telepathic communication at a certain point. And with the people that I work with again and again, it's like you just want them there. You want them on set. It makes the day better. So it's grown very organically. It certainly wasn't an intentional thing, but it's one of my favorite things about working.
Kate, the first collaboration was Oculus, as I remember it. So what struck you about his methodology, his sensibilities that connected with you from the start, do you think?
Well, the first time I ever performed for Mike Flanagan was an audition for another movie that actually never became a movie. And for the record, I didn't book it. He didn't cast me in that movie. Thank you. But I went in, and normally in these auditions, you prepare a huge amount of material. I think it was 8 pages. It was very emotional. And they'll put you through your paces if you're lucky. Generally, you get to run it once, and they go, thank you. And Mike ran it 3 or 4 times, giving me direction, pulling me all the way from one end to the other. And it was a time in my career when I was feeling really despondent, just like I was being led in like cattle and let out like cattle and not having any success. And after I felt like I had run through all of my tricks and like did my routine, at the end I'm like, and Mike looked at me and he just said, hey, can you do one more? And I was so ready with my like, yes, gold star, anything you want. What do you want from me? I was there. And he was just like, just do one the way you want to do it. Just do it for you. And I almost burst into tears because it had been so long since I felt like my art had belonged to me. And I think that feeling is held by every one of the Flavengers. That Mike truly wants you to own your art. And that is true of everybody on that set design, sound, camera work. Everybody owns their art and brings it to the can-do salad of whatever the movie is. And I was immediately addicted to working with him. And then I fell in love with him. Because he's so damn handsome. Hi. How you doing later?
Just sit with it, everybody. Let the awkwardness happen. Now, can you set the record straight? I think I heard Mike say this. Is it true that you like to make up plots of movies that you pretend that you've seen in your life?
Well, what's funny is that I've seen every movie, so I'm not making it up. But it's not true.
You should hear her try to riff her way through what she thinks Dog Day Afternoon is about.
Remind me again, what happens at Dog Day Afternoon?
Oh, no, absolutely. Dog Day Afternoon is an incredible film about a boy and his cat. And what they've done is this boy wanted a dog very badly, but unfortunately he has a history of eating dogs. So,
He should be animated when she does this. Yeah.
anyways, mom got him a cat because his mom was going to space and she wanted someone to take care of him. But he spends an entire day treating this cat like a dog. They go out, they play fetch, they solve crimes, and then come home from a well-spent afternoon.
Come on, give it up.
Your mom? Was she the one in space? That's incredible. There we go.
There are a couple different Dog Day
That's
Afternoons, to
amazing.
set the record straight. Carla, your origin story, I believe, was Gerald's game, as I recall, with Mike. Which kind of sets the bar right there. A big ask, a challenging performance, an unusual kind of, one of those so-called unfilmable Stephen King adaptations that you've specialized in, I feel like, over the years. What do you recall about getting that role and the challenge of working on that one in particular?
Well, that was an unusual circumstance because I had heard through my agents that Mike Flanagan was interested in meeting about this movie that was going very, very quickly. And there was a short list of people that he was meeting with, and did I want to? So I read the script, and I thought, wow, there is nowhere to hide, figuratively. As you know, she is handcuffed to a bed and in a negligee, and then, everything, craziness ensues. So I thought, well, I need to talk to this guy. This adaptation is very cool, but I would be having to jump in extremely quickly and put myself in this person's hands. And so we ended up talking. What you didn't tell me at the time was that basically, had this not come through very, very quickly, the movie would not have happened, but he played it very cool. And we talked when you were scouting. You were already in Mobile, Alabama, where we shot it. And we started talking, about, basically within about 3 minutes, I was like, I want to help this guy make his movie. Like, I feel completely this innate trust very quickly. I don't know how I knew that to be true, but it absolutely was. And we delved in. I mean, from the moment that I read the script to the moment we were filming our first shot was 2 weeks all in. Bruce Greenwood had been cast. Someone else was going to do the movie and had to drop out for crazy stories, crazy reasons. And we just hit the ground running. I mean, literally, Bruce and I had dinner every night with our scripts in hand, just running lines. Because we shot it was sort of like a one-act play. I mean, we shot it predominantly in this one small location with a small crane that would just follow us around, and I would play the various Jessies in a row. So we would just sort of, and then that was where we got to meet. I mean, it was an incredible experience that was insanely challenging and one of the most joyous times I've ever had on a set as well. So yeah, it was a crazy entry. We definitely had to jump in full force together.
And a few of you who have come to the table this morning already when we were doing our signings. I've said this probably 10 times this morning when people bring up that movie, and I say, Carla saved us. She saved the movie, she saved the cast and the crew, and it wasn't just that she came in and took the part and ran with it. Carla showed up and took a crew that was panicked because we had thought the movie might not happen, that were incredibly stressed about kind of throwing this new unknown element, into the mix so quickly. And I know Bruce was like, this is someone I don't have a previous relationship with, this is someone I have to get to know right away, and he was like, how is this gonna work? And Carla came in and kind of took everybody's anxiety and quieted it right away on her first rehearsal day. And everyone relaxed and calmed down, and Carla very much took a leadership position in the movie. And I knew the first week that it was like, I want to work with this person forever. And thus far, we have for the most part. Yeah.
So
I know this is turning into like a roast of Mike Flanagan in the best possible way, but just go with it. Rahul, your origin story, I guess, was it just another audition at the time for Bly Manor?
Yeah, I just done a tape. Like it's not it's so strange. It had such a regular, mundane feel to it. Like the thing that was about to happen was going to change my life, but it came about very just routinely. I had just finished Eyes on Me, and then I didn't know where the next show was coming from, and I got it was like it said Hill House sequel. And I did a tape with my mum, which was an experience. And then like a few days later, my team called me and said, yeah, you off to Vancouver. And I was like, okay, cool. And that was it. And then very quickly after meeting Mike, and Mike directed the pilot, so that was when I worked with him. I feel like a few days in, you started sizing me up and asking me questions about like, how old do you think you can play and things like that. And I was like, oh, something's happening. And at a certain point, we met and you talked to me about Midnight Mass. So, yeah, like I say, it's one of those things, it wasn't like I said, being a part of the, what are we calling ourselves? Flavengers.
You're not in the group text, so you don't know.
But being a part of that for me, it started just really quiet, and I didn't realise that I was about to embark on one of the most important journeys of my life and career, and I've made friends for life, and I've got to work. I mean, I'm sitting next to Carla Gugino. I was like, oh my god, Bon Jovi Always music video. Because I was in Thailand, I was a kid, we didn't have any English-speaking shows except MTV, and they were pumping that music video. So you just remind me of this vacation. But yeah, it's been great.
Go ahead, Mike.
Can I embarrass him just a little bit?
Please.
So when we were shooting the pilot of Bly, we were in prep on Midnight Mass at the same time. And so I was on set for Bly, but I was trying to get Midnight Mass up in the background, and I was already looking at him off his tape as like, oh, he could be terrific for Sheriff Hassan, but I wasn't sure. I didn't really know him. And so there's a scene in the pilot of Bly, pilot or second, pilot, where he's unloading groceries in the kitchen, and he shows up with shopping bags, he's unloading them. And there wasn't much direction to give for this, because he was just being his charming kind of Owen self and putting away the groceries. And I was like, I want to get a sense of like who this guy really is, because everybody behaves very different when they show up on set. Everybody's being very proper and being very trying to make a good impression, especially on a pilot. And so I just started making up really ridiculous directions for the groceries. And I was like, it's very important that you start with the bananas. And I want you to take those out first with your left hand. And with your right hand, I want you to be reaching for the bread. And then I want you to lift them both up at the same time and place them on the counter. And I'm watching him go, right? And I'm just making shit up left and right, and just like seeing what he would do, and he's like, yeah, and then, right, you're fucking with me, aren't you? And then I was like, oh, we're gonna get along great. This is great. And that was it was the you're fucking with me, aren't you? Where I was like, yeah, we can work together.
I didn't know that.
To be fair, Rahul,
I thought it was just my absolute, my talent. I didn't know that. It's the banter that got it.
I just met Rahul backstage, and first thing he fucked with me by asking about the performance of his girlfriend in Kate's new film, by the way. So, yeah, turnabout is fair
I
play.
buried the lead. I said, what did you think of the lead of VHS Stowaway? And
Thank God I said I liked her.
Yeah, that's
You
what
did
I-
take that pause. You were like, something is.
Yeah, you did take that pause.
I didn't know what he was fishing for. Oh my gosh. So if there is a theme perhaps that does recur in your work, there are several, but fucked up families, that's in there. Which brings us maybe to the latest work that many of folks here have seen called The House of Usher. Super fucked up family, congratulations. The motherload of them all. How did that one come together? Was that in your brain for a while to bring that story and give it your own spin?
Yeah, I've wanted to adapt Poe since I was a kid, you know, and to try to find a way to do Poe that hadn't really, I think, been done like that before. He's one of those, it's like with the turn of the screw with Henry James. There are so many adaptations. Like, how do you do something that is different? And with this one, it was at a time when I think we all felt like we had a lot to say about the country and a lot to say about kind of the wealth gap, and it just seemed like this delicious opportunity to kind of do something that was funny and dark and wicked and twisted, and that just felt like different music than what we've been making. And I think we had talked at one point about like, oh, Hill House, you know, is like classical music, and Bly Manor is like a string quartet, and House of Usher's rock and roll with a little heavy metal, and it was like, this is really fun. But it was, I remember on Midnight Mass already talking to the cast about the characters I thought that they would play in Usher, and kind of pulling everybody aside and being like, what do you think of this, what do you think of that? Which was really fun for Carla, because it was like, what do you think of these 9 versions?
I was gonna say, yeah, what's the reaction? That's gotta be like a good conversation to have. Like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a challenge, but this is gonna be delicious.
Yeah, that's an understatement for sure on both of those counts. Well, it was a while because I donated my voice, but I was not actually up there with you guys for Midnight Mass, so I didn't have the conversation that on set. It was you basically called and you were like, I think I want to do Poe, and would you be interested in The Raven? I think you'd be great as The Raven. And I said yes, and that was all I needed. But then, as you started writing scripts, you were like, well, sort of I kept getting each script as it came, so I didn't get to binge it. I had to actually wait for each script, but he's really fast. So, but every time I was like, oh God, this is she's yeah, okay, and then I got okay, now maybe that's how I would approach that, and then she kept going, and then I was riveted, and then I became terrified when I realized I had to play her. I basically was like, oh, right, and now comes, I better pull this off, or else I will ruin the whole show. So it was an extraordinary, I mean, I could go on forever about what that process was for me. There weren't any, there were some of the characters, some of the incarnations of Verna had very specific things written, and some there were no accents, so we were able to explore that together. So I would come and sort of, Mike would be in his office on a moment off with a pizza on your desk, and I'd be like, what do you think about, and then I would audition for him basically an accent for one of the characters, and feel like, oh, this person might be from the Midwest, or this person, and we were almost all of them, I think you really, we clicked in with right away, except for there was a moment where our escort in Goldbug was going to be, I had kind of initially thought of her as being this sort of New Yorker, heart on her sleeve, kind of crack. Like she had this, I don't know, there was this idea that I had, and Mike kept going, really supportive, I think that, and then finally I was like, I don't think this one, I feel like, he was like, yeah, I just feel like it might not be her. And so I said, maybe she's a Brit. And in that moment, we just started playing with it. He was like, that's where she lives. And so that's the amazing thing about being able to collaborate with somebody that you have no ego and innate trust, and you know you have an extremely strong leader. I mean, this is the thing. Directors who are who have a very strong perspective, especially auteurs, especially someone who's written and is directing, and in this case also editing. So they have ownership over it and a very clear vision. They are truly collaborative. And so that's the difference. The people who are really resistant are usually insecure. So there's this great thing that can happen, which is you skip a bunch of steps and you get to actually just cut to the quick and go, oh, okay, there she is, great, we got it. Onward, so it was an incredible, one of the most extraordinary experiences of my career and my creative life. And then to get to work with people that you love and respect so much as a cast I have no words for it. You blow me away every time. Kate is one of the most precise actors on the planet. It's really extraordinary to watch. Super facile and also just insanely precise, and that's a really, really special talent. And then we just got to go to town.
I was hoping you'd just go and Rahul's tall.
You are very tall.
It's fast.
We did have a blast.
We just got a taste. We need more, but yes.
I'm wondering for Kate and Rahul, are you ever surprised at the roles that Mike approaches you with? Because I think what's also striking to me in all your collaborations is you see many different facets of them. You're not casting them in the same type of role in each project, and that is the greatest gift I feel like any actor can have with collaborators, to feel seen and to see what you can show off that you haven't before. So I guess what's the back and forth there? Have you been in a case where he's come to you with one kind of role and you're like, really, this is the one?
I think I struggled the most with Aaron Green because what Mike wanted for Aaron was the most private part of me. As a person, when I feel perceived, I immediately put the jazz hands on and start running the jokes and kind of look over here, look over here, look over here, so that the rest of it can still be secret and safe. And originally, it was Aaron who burned up in the rowboat. And when Mike made that swap, he came to me, and that was when he started saying, I think I want you to play Aaron. And I was like, no, honestly, I would be a fabulous Bev. Let's be clear. I was like, what about Lady Sheriff? Or what about Mother Paul? And I started reading Aaron, and I started to see how you saw me in that way. And then on set, it was a daily exercise in stripping away. And I would try to do a little zhuzh, and he would say no. And I would say, but what about this? And I also got these. And he'd be like, none of those. And I think the perfect example of that was there's a moment, spoiler alert, when Aaron shoots Bev. And the line is, now we have 5 minutes. And when I tell you I was ready to be Ripley in that moment with the gun, and I'm like, what about a close-up and a smash cut to me? And we went back and forth on that a lot because there's a certain amount of Aaron who didn't know what to say, but knew that there's supposed to be a rousing statement there, but you see her sort of not quite hit it. And that's the beauty of Erin, is that she's little moves and she's gentle. But after I was able to kind of cut myself open and bleed out all of what I thought was private and then became public, he gifted me with Camille.
Yeah.
Who is only jazz
That's
hands.
jazz hands.
And you'll be doing full jazz hands in The Exorcist, we can say. You're just going to be doing singing and dancing, obviously.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All singing, all dancing Exorcist.
Rahul, which of the opportunities have shocked you in the best possible way? We talked about the sheriff. That's got to be an amazing kind of... You have never played that kind of role before, I presume, and that's...
Yeah, so... Ravi was the iZombie thing, playing Sweet Boys. was kind of like my forte at that point, and Owen was kind of similar to that. So the sheriff was the first like, oh, okay, cool. I think I was 33 at the time, and we thought the sheriff was about 42, 40, so I was already going to be playing up, have a teenage son. I don't speak Arabic, I'm not Muslim, so there was a lot there. I'm not American. Shocker.
You are a sheriff.
I am a sheriff. Yeah, that was easy. But yeah, that one, that was a tough one for me. Like, I wrestled with it every day. It felt like an ill-fitting costume, I think, and I was always, it was a character that was super contained, and we never really wanted him to peak, right? We always wanted him to sort of simmer, and just the way that shooting worked out, the only time he boils over is the last week of filming. So for 6 months, I felt like I was just smouldering. And then you'd wait for a crew member to be like, great scene, and no one did, because I just stood there like that. But it changed me, that role changed me, because I was terrified, super insecure, I didn't feel like I'd proven myself with that role. And once it came out and we had the reception we had, it changed me, it developed it. Not that I didn't trust Mike, I obviously trust Mike, but it deepened that to the point now where if Mike's like, I want you to play the little possessed girl in Exorcist, I'm like, got me. Because I know he wants the best for me and he's not going to let me fail. So,
Okay, so you're a little possessed girl, you're jazz hands. What's Carla?
What am I?
Carla plays both the priest and the devil.
Carla Gugino doesn't do one role anymore, guys. It's two and above at a minimum. Breaking news, we have not one but two directors on the panel. I want to give some love to Kate. VHS Beyond, you can check out. Big moment, new skill set, new talents unlocked. Talk to me a little bit about, new perspective, newfound respect, or less respect for what Mike does.
Yeah, it's super easy. What are you talking about? I love it. I'm really happy to be expanding in the world like that. But I had flinched from it for so long because I knew how much work it was. And I'm a sleepy girl. And I did want to take a nap, and directors don't get to take naps. Actors sometimes do. So I kind of approached it with a little trepidation, and I worked as hard as I could, and I tried to be as precise as I was. But very quickly I realized that all of the misfitting of acting that can happen for me, where I have to silence my brain and I have to work really hard not to be mean to myself or to be too controlling at any moment. All of these things that I thought were faults in me as an artist were benefits to me as a director. And so there was a certain ease in that transition for me because, well, I haven't done it before, and the first time I picked up a camera was to shoot VHS Beyond. I had been sitting next to Mike Flanagan for 12 years, and there is no better role model when it comes to hard work, point of view, the way you run a set, and how you kind of gently guide a story into existence. And so with Mike cheering me from behind, I was able to fully step into this moment, which is when you're doing something for the first time, there's no voice in the back of your head about how it should be done. You don't know a lot. And you can either let that be your detriment or you can let that be your superpower. So when I said part of my short takes place in space, and it was a very low budget situation. But I was like, no, I want zero gravity. And so I just was like, how will you do this for 6 peanuts and a wad of bubblegum? And I worked it out and figured it out. But I think if I had been a more experienced filmmaker, I would have been like, we have to change the script. I can't do it. And so I hope to continue approaching directing like that, like with the goldfish memory. Every time is my first time.
And a nap or two if you can sneak it in.
I would love a nap. It's been a long time.
I also want to give some love. Next year, you guys are in for a treat. The Life of Chuck is Mike's. I was privileged enough to see this. It debuted at the Toronto Film Festival, won the Audience Award, which, look it up. Any film that wins the Audience Award, great things happen. This is a very special piece of work based on Stephen King's work. Not relying on scares, it's a different kind of Stephen King, or the Stand By Me, Shawshank side of things. This has to feel like a very personal work for you. It's about life, death, what's important. Can you talk to us a little bit about Life of Chuck?
Yeah, Life of Chuck. Has anyone read the short story? Not a lot of people are familiar with the short story. It came out in If It Bleeds and was not one of the more celebrated stories that he wrote. It's one of my favorite things he's ever written. And as I was reading it, I finished the story crying down my face and feeling like I wanted this movie to exist in the world for my kids. And we got to make the movie that we wanted to make completely independently. We had no idea if anyone would ever, well, we were pretty certain the studio would never make the movie. And we had no idea if anyone would ever buy the movie and put it out. But it's of the feature films I've gotten to work on in my career, it's my favorite by a lot. But it is very different. It's not at all horror, like you said. It's the kind of softest, gooeyest, most humanist side of Stephen King and of me too. But I just love it, and I hope you guys get to see it sooner than later. It won't be till next year, but yeah, please check it out when you can. It's pretty lovely.
All that plus the Tom Hiddleston dancing, and that's epic.
Oh, and everybody up here is in it. Everybody on stage. Carla, kind of like Midnight Mass, you hear her. But I got to show Carla the movie yesterday.
It's so extraordinary. I'm so excited for you guys to see it. I was actually saying to Mike, one thing I think I can say that doesn't give anything away, but that you all, having followed his stories, is that Mike has this incredible ability to cut to the quick of what it is to be human and how we find ourselves through our connection with others, and how each person that we meet along the way we take with us. And that's really such a theme in everything, and that theme is here, though the genre is very different. It's this deep humanity, lack of sentimentality, and yet you will weep. So it's extraordinary, yeah, really cool.
It also, Stephen King came out to Toronto. Stephen King doesn't often go out in public for these kinds of things, and look, you've obviously adapted his work before, but that's not a given. I'm curious, what is the relationship now with Stephen King? Does he give notes? Is he just totally hands-off?
Well, I've had the weirdest evolution of that relationship, because when we did Gerald's Game, I never spoke to him at all. He keeps it at a distance. He has a lot of approvals that he exercises, like Steve approves everything, every cast member, kind of every big decision you submit to him and he approves it. But there's a wall that he is very comfortable on the other side of. And he says all the time that the book is mine, the movie is yours. And he explained that later when I finally did meet him. I didn't meet him until after Dr. Sleep was done. And we brought the movie to Bangor and screened it for him. And I sat next to him in an empty movie theater and watched Dr. Sleep. It was crazy.
No pressure.
Oh no, and I was nauseous the whole time. And I just stared at him, which I'm sure made his experience really weird. And every time he kind of I was like, he likes it. And if he didn't, he was like, And that was a long movie. It lasted for a really long time. But I asked him about that separation afterward, and he said, well, I can't lose if the movie's great. People say, of course it's great. It's based on a great book. But if the movie sucks, they say the book was better. I win no matter what. And these days, it was with Gerald's Game, when the movie was over, he sent me an email. And I framed it, and I still have it in my office. And when Dr. Sleep was over, I got to actually meet him and watch it with him. And then he started to text and email me. And Then with Life of Chuck, they had said, hey, would Steve come out to Toronto and be there? And I said, no way, there's no way. He doesn't do that. And then he reached out the week of the screening and said, I really want to come be in the theater. I really love this movie and I want to be there for it. And so he showed up, and I asked him when he got there when the last time he'd come to a premiere was, and he said it was The Green Mile in 1999. So it was 25 years. Yeah. He loves the movie. It was really neat was watching Mark Hamill geek out because Stephen King was there. And he just kept going, Stephen King is here! And there are these wonderful candid pictures of them in the audience that Steve doesn't know. Mark's sitting there going. And the festival didn't know he was going to be there either. And so I got to introduce the movie. And I got to say, and I'm delighted to tell you all, Stephen King is in the audience, and he stood up with his can of Diet Pepsi and he waved, and the place got to its feet. And he got a standing ovation before the movie, and I've never seen anything like that.
Unbelievable. And the collaboration continues. Dark Tower.
Yeah. Easy cake. Easy cake. It's gonna be fun.
It's fun. Why is he sweating all of a sudden? What just happened?
Speaking of nausea, yeah.
I mean, this is a big question. Like, how do you approach that? How do you capture what is the massive
Do you have an answer to that?
Nice.
I'd love to
Send
know.
him an email with notes.
I mean, these are the questions that keep me up at night. But I honestly think the only way to do it is to just do the books.
Yeah.
I think the thing about The Dark Tower that's so incredible is Stephen King builds an astonishing universe, and it's huge, and it's populated with such a richness of characters and scale and scope, eventually. But he starts that story with one person following another person in a barren desert. It's one of the greatest opening lines of any novel of all time. That's how you do it. And you start with two people in a simple story. One is trying to catch the other. That's it. And everything else is gradually added to it. And I think that's how you do The Dark Tower. You build it one brick at a time. I can understand the gravity that has pulled people into being like, oh, we'll jump in the middle, or we'll jump in over here, or we try to jump ahead. And to show the big scale of this thing, you can't start like that. You can't. And fortunately, Stephen King is a master storyteller who's constructed a magnum opus and an epic that begins very intimately and ends very intimately, and in the middle expands into this giant world. I think that's the only way to do it, and that's how we're going to do it. But yeah, we'll see. It's taking forever, so sorry about that.
Well, when are we going to get you in a superhero movie, for God's sakes? Come on. You're fantastic to death.
When I start going gym, maybe. I'm probably not helping myself, to be honest. I don't know, I've had some nearlies. It will happen, I'm sure.
So, can you set the record straight? Because I feel like I've heard different things. Did you actually get to meet on Reed Richards on Mr. Fantastic? Were you up for that? Now he's sweating.
I did a tape.
Okay.
That's it. It was blown out and horseshoe and over great stuff. Like him and Pedro Pascal were down to the last two. No, I did a tape. And I've never read back. I still got my fingers crossed. But I've done tapes for Deadpool, I've done tapes for everything. Like, it doesn't mean anything. Like, there's tons of stuff life-changing things that I read for, and then it's just like a silent fart. It just disappears. And that's it.
And then it's an audition for Bly Manor that changes your life.
It's the Bly Manor that changes your life. But again, it's like, you know, the big one for me was Star Wars. Obviously, I became an actor because of Star Wars, and I had some nearlies with that, but instead I got to work with Mark Hamill. See how I brought it back to Usher? Good job. And just because you're in Star Wars doesn't mean that you get to share the the scream of Luke Skywalker.
Pretty rare.
And that was one of the greatest gifts ever. And then this hasn't even been said publicly. So when Mike does, like Mike showed Carla Chuck, so Mike will work his way around the cast at a certain point to say, do you want to see the series or do you want to see the film? And when it was Usher's turn, we watched all of Usher over 2 days, randomly with Hayden Christensen, who we've become friends with. When I tell you the level of anxiety of watching a show you're in, knowing your scenes are coming up while your hero's next to you, and every time I appeared on camera, he'd elbow me. It was the most surreal. So yeah, I haven't done stuff, but I was like, nothing's gonna top that.
Yeah.
It's great. I feel like I've done Star Wars in my own way.
You showed that Exorcist, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask a serious kind of update question because, I mean, again, my favorite horror movie of all time, The Exorcist, the original. What are you trying to capture in this? What's important to you about approaching a new Exorcist film?
Well, it's a familiar feeling of nausea again. I felt the same one with Dr. Sleep, where it was like, what did I do? The Exorcist is one of those movies that was incredibly formative for me. It shaped me. I saw it too young, and it really fucked me up. But I think, and they've made so many sequels, prequels to it, and none of them come close, right? You can't do The Exorcist. There's no point in remaking it. There's no point in trying to do that story again or better than the way it was done. So you have to do something new. And you have to do something that rhymes with it and that harmonizes with it, but that isn't trying to replace it or retread it. Yeah, a musical. We're doing a musical. But so my goal with the Exorcist, the jazz hands Exorcist, it was the scariest movie of its time. That was half a century ago. And my only goal isn't to make the scariest movie ever made or to remake The Exorcist. My goal is to make the scariest movie I've ever made and try to make something that scares the shit out of me. And so that's what the appeal is for me. But yeah, what we're doing with it is a completely new thing. It's a completely new story. It's not a retread, it's not a remake, it's not an update. And I can tell you that the two movies I'm watching the most to try to get this kind of energy channeled. Of course, I'm watching Friedkin's masterpiece, but I'm looking a lot at The Exorcist 3.
Yes!
Which is a great movie. It has some ideas I think that are just ripe to be explored further, and I love that movie.
Of Georgie Scott.
Best jump scare maybe in cinematic history. In that hallway sequence in the hospital is fucking astonishing if you haven't seen it.
And it has Patrick Ewing in it. You're Knicks fans, come on.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, and Fabio's in it too. That's the thing we're bringing back. But yeah, it's the script is due November 1st, so I gotta get right.
We'll get you out of here in a second. So that was the movie you saw too young that fucked you up. Any other nominees for a movie you guys saw early on that maybe was a little too early?
Showgirls. I saw it in Spain, really young, and I thought, when I see a swimming pool, even now, I'm like...
Quick follow-up, how young?
Oh, under 10.
Oh, wow. That explains a lot.
I saw Jaws at 5, and I lived in Florida. So it was really bad. I ran from the theater and then didn't go in the water for about a year, which, yeah, it was not a good move on my mom's part, and she apologized.
So both of those movies made you both look at water a certain way.
My go-to answer for this has always been while you were sleeping. This movie really fucks me up. I have this like real problem with like reality not being reality. And imagine waking up from a coma and your life is entirely different. And your whole family is like, this life is amazing for you. Look at your amazing life. And you're like, this doesn't feel right. And there's this woman staring at you and it's like, I love you. And you're like, I don't know how this feels. And so eventually you just go along with it. And you're like, all right, this is my life now. And you've adopted this reality. And then it's like, haha, just kidding. I was lying the whole time. It's psychological torture at the most specific level.
Is this the real plot, or is this another Dog Day Afternoon? I've seen it.
And then your mom goes to space, and you're like, I don't know what to do with this cat all day.
Thanks for ruining While You Were Sleeping for everybody. We thought it was a fun movie,
It is
Kate.
not a fun movie. It's a terrible movie, plus public transportation. It just makes me miss it. I live in LA, I'm stuck in my car.
Yeah, the
so
cars are
lonely.
terrible.
So lonely.
All 500 of us are getting on the subway together after this. It's gonna be okay. Is there okay, for like say you approach someone that says, I don't love horror, it's just not for me. What's the starter, what's the entry point? What would you recommend?
Well, I don't love you. You're not for me.
I literally said that to Mike.
He did.
I
made a
wasn't
list.
a fan.
It's so when people do, I mean, I always do like, oh, you can do Poltergeist, you know. But the thing I love to do is I'd say, oh, Martyrs.
Oh shit!
And if you've seen it,
Oh my god!
it's so mean. But people go, what's a good entry level? I'm like, there's a great French film. I'm like, oh, French. I'm like, yes, it's called Martyrs. And they're like, oh, great. I'm like, it's nice and gentle. It'll ease you into the genre. And then they call up and like, what the fuck, dude? I'm like, that's what you get for asking me for like an entry-level horror movie. But no, then I say, nah, I watch Gremlins. I don't know.
Watch While You Were Sleeping.
Watch While You Were Sleeping. With Sandra Bullock and Bill Pullman.
Terrifying.
Terrifying. Peter Gallagher.
The eyebrows.
Yeah.
I know, it's happening to him.
I know, he's the victim.
He's the final girl.
He's the final girl of While You Were Sleeping.
It's very sad.
Everybody stick around for the While You Were Sleeping reunion in this room right after. It's suddenly changed completely. We're gonna end with a happy, sad, confused, profoundly random questions, guys. Are you, as if these have been random enough. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. Are you dog or cat people?
Dog.
Dog.
Doug. But I don't hate cats.
Liar.
Please stop
Liar.
saying that on the
Liar.
internet.
We love cats, so we have to choose. We have to pick one. So
Yeah, cats are great.
My favorite's Kate, my new favorite. What do you collect, guys? Do you collect anything?
What do we collect?
Yeah.
Parts in Mike Flanagan shows.
Who's
No.
winning that?
Who's doing what?
Who's winning the pots in the? Who's
It
the?
was-
I actually know.
It's Henry, right?
It's a tie between you and Henry.
Woo!
Yeah.
Exorcist, here I go!
I think you need to win this race.
Right?
Yeah, there's a problem. There's a problem. Henry has to,
We like
have to have discussions, yeah.
I collect movie props. Yeah, I have a lot of movie
Amazing.
props.
From other movies or
Yeah,
yeah?
a lot of other movies. I finally am smart enough to steal them from my own movies now. It took me way too long to figure that out. But no, I've got one of the baseball bats from The Natural. I've got Raccacoonie from Everything Everywhere All at Once. There are 4 Wonder Boys, I think, in the world. I've got one of them. But, yeah.
Cool. What about you guys? You collect anything, Carla or Rahul?
I used to collect high heels. Always shorter than I wanted to be.
That was not going to be my answer.
I'm giving some to you because now I live in New York City and I don't want
True.
to be so.
Rahul just has a closet full of Carla's shoes.
There was.
Our feet are the same size.
Have you seen Bon Jovi Always video? Mine's everything. Warhammer, Hot Toys. I shouldn't have adult money. It's just, I piss it away so fast. I'm like, look at this Darth Vader helmet.
Didn't you recently get into watches?
watches. Not as relatable. just action figures. But yeah, everything. I have an addictive personality, and if I'm not doing bad stuff, drinking, it's buying toys, and I think that's the same thing. So,
What's the wallpaper on any of your respective phones?
Oh.
Anything interesting?
Mine's my kids. Yeah.
Banjo! It's a
Who's that text from? Can you just read it out loud for us?
Once the panel is done, they bring you back over. It's nothing exciting on my phone.
Last actor any of you were mistaken for. Does that ever happen?
Oh, will you tell the airport story?
This is great.
This is great.
I'll try to keep it very short. So Kate calls me, she's traveling from LA to Vancouver, and she says, we're talking about the John Boyd story, or the... No.
I was thinking about the Elizabeth Olsen story, but this is...
Oh, no, okay, no, the Elizabeth
the
Olsen
John
one's
Boyd
even
story
better.
is a better story.
So we're going through the airport together, we're going through security, and I see this happen sometimes, where Kate comes around and someone's like, go over there, oh? And you see the recognition moment happen, and the TSA guy is like, come on through. And Kate's like, thank you very much. And I'm like, oh. And then Kate walks by, and I'm kind of waiting behind, anonymously, which is fine. And she goes through, and he turns to me and to the other TSA people, like, do you know who that was? And I'm like, and he goes, Elizabeth Olsen. She was in 4 Marvel movies.
I also don't think is right.
I don't think that math is correct either. And I'm there and I'm like, well, yes it was. And then I ran up, Elizabeth!
No autographs, please.
Yeah.
My favorite was I was sharing a car with John Voight once, and he turned to me and he goes, you kind of look like my daughter.
The best part about that though, and where I went there because of the mistaken identity thing, was she called me and said, I'm in a car with Christopher Walken.
Who was so good as the cat in Dog Day Afternoon. Or Meow.
I at this point get, you look so much like Carla Gugino. And generally I say, I do get that often. So that's what's at this point. I did get mistaken for many years, and now that seems to be the thing. There's no one who looks like
There's only
John
one person.
Krasinski, I get, but that's like just, no one goes, oh my god, it's John Krasinski. But if you go on a clip, it will say Brown Jim, or... I don't get recognized, so I don't get mistaken either. I just, I saw that, yeah.
I will say, the group text chain has an awful lot of John Krasinski memes that we put up when Rahul's doing
Just the reaction gif.
Yeah.
The worst note a director has ever given you.
I'll take the banana out first.
Yes. Another good callback. Well done. Anyone else? Anything jump to mind of a...
No.
Okay.
I can't think of it right now. There are several.
You blocked it out for the best, yeah. And finally, in the spirit of happy sacrifice, who's an actor that always makes you happy? You see them on screen, you light up.
Rahul Kohli.
Lies. Anyone else?
Like just in general?
In general.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, damn. There's
So
thousands.
many, I know, there's so many. I mean, I can't not watch Meryl Streep. It's such a predictable answer, and yet she made me want to act. So every time I see her, I'm just like blown away by that one.
I always love watching Tom Hanks, always. There's a familiarity and warmth to it. But you know who delights me constantly these days? Is Jack Quaid. Whenever I see Jack Quaid, I'm like, oh, yes.
I actually have him on because we just ran into each other here too. Mads Mikkelsen. That's his
He's here.
He's actually your guys. I also
We gotta meet Matt's goals. I wanna meet Matt's
Get an
goals.
autograph.
Matt Berry. We were just.
What's
I
it?
also, I thought of my director note story that I'd like to
Yeah.
tell. So in the TV show Midnight Mass,
When you directed that one. Shit, here we are.
You can say.
hard to know, there is a scene where my character is doing a little exposition and lets everybody know that they've sent the boats back to the mainland. They're called ferries.
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 It's pronounced ferries.
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 Ferries with an E.
And I want you to
Ferries.
imagine Mike and I doing this from across the soundstage at each other at 3 in the morning. Say, cut, ferries.
Ferries.
I would say ferries.
And that rhymes with like it's fairies that rhymes with
Berries.
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 Yeah, not fairies. That's
Berries.
Tinkerbell. Berries like
Berries.
Tinkerbell with wings.
For a really
Berries
long time.
with an E.
And everyone is, you feel the whole vibe shift, and they're like, fuck, mom and dad are fighting. And after a while of going, ferries,
Fairies.
Berries.
It's fairies.
ferries,
Yeah.
he just goes, fuck it, action.
Well, thank you all for being at the